I have a 93-point rated Cabernet Sauvignon.
And I have a 93-point rated Margaux from France.
$20?
$60.
What's that about?
Coming up.
So today we're going to talk about ratings. And I know I go into the store, it's hard for me to not look, but I am drawn to where they have those big ratings, 96, 93. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Absolutely. And I know that when we talk to wine producers, they both love them and hate them.
It's because they know they need them. Honestly, everybody does look at that. They're looking to see what's rated, and it's really, what are they trying to get? Really, they're looking for a review. They're looking for a recommendation from somebody. So, because they need some guidance as to what they're spending their money on.
Sure. If you go into a wine shop and you've never seen something before, you're trying to choose from a number of wines. If some expert has said, hey, this one is really good, I'm going to give it a lot of points.
Yeah.
That, to me as a consumer, hopefully will give me some confidence that when I buy that, it's going to be a better wine.
Right, that you're spending the right amount of money for what you're getting. And you're okay if you think it's got a lower rating if they're not charging you too much for it. It kind of justifies it in your mind a bit.
Yeah, there's certainly a tremendous marketing power associated with the ratings, but who's giving these ratings and what are they all about?
So it didn't used to be this way at all. It didn't used to be. It used to be just food critics, restaurant critics, and wine critics. But the critics were really paid for by the producers. They're advertising. So they're going out trying to sell you wine. And so their critic reviews are from that perspective. So Robert Parker is the one who started this whole system that we have today that has gotten so much momentum. But his whole purpose was to be from a consumer level. That was his goal.
Right, and originally, his goal was to look at different elements of the wine and rate those, similar to the way judges might rate a skating competition, right?
Exactly. It was very structured.
Right, so, certain number of points for this, certain number of points for that, certain number of points for that, which would reveal a total aggregate score that a consumer could depend on.
Right, so for wine, they were basing it on the color and the appearance, the aroma and the bouquet, the flavor, however that came across to you, in flavor and finish kind of went in there together, and just the overall quality. And sometimes they were doing the quality and what they expected that quality to be forthcoming. So wines that would age, they would kind of project that.
Now, even though you can break it out into the basic elements and do points, isn't it still subjective? I mean, do you give the same wine to different raters, you're going to get different ratings.
Okay, that's not even the question, because you say it all the time. Wine is always subjective.
Well, wine is subjective, but
phrase it like it's a question. I know what you think. Tell me.
So how can you tell, if you're a consumer, you walk into the shop, how can you tell if this particular rater, you may not even know it is, it may just be a number up there, if that's going to correlate to anything that you care about as a consumer?
It may or may not. It may have absolutely nothing to do with it. There are some people that I kind of feel like I have the same flavor profile with, and I might follow them, but that may not be the case at all.
Okay, so you kind of need to know who it is that's doing the ratings.
You do, and it is, again, it's subjective. It's going to be trial and error.
Now, can you learn over time what certain raters tend to look for?
I think you can, and this is just my opinion. I think you can. Like I said, I identify with some of them. I also identify with some words and things in there, but on the rating levels themselves, we just need to know how that works. So the Robert Parker scale is 50 to 100 points, right?
Right. Nobody's getting a 42 rating.
Not at all. They're not. No. So, you think about that makes you worry, is it even all that? So his came out of, he started Wine Advocate, which was actually a newsletter when he started it. Most of the people doing ratings nowadays have different categories. There are magazines that do ratings. Mm-hmm. There are newsletters, people that have memberships to that, websites that do that with professional rater. So James Suckling, he has his own website, and he does that through his newsletters and blogs and things, but he is an online professional critic. Jeb Dunnick is one of those as well. Then you have Wine Spectator magazine, Wine Enthusiast magazine, lots of other magazines.
So if over time you find that a certain rater, somebody who is out there rating wines, aligns with you and seems to like the same wines that you like, then it starts to become dependable.
I think so. But then again, I really want you to depend on yourself.
Okay, but most wines aren't rated. Right.
There are lots of them that aren't rated, but you know, there's a reason. You've been talking to all the professionals when we go talk to the winemakers and stuff. So I know you've had to work that side of it.
Absolutely. And we've had to submit wines to be rated. And it's very different. Each publication is very different. Some of them won't accept any submissions. They decide if they want to rate you. Others will accept a submission, and then you can wait for anywhere from a few months to a year or more to find out if someone's going to try your wine and write about it. And then once they do, then you're stuck with whatever they've rated it
This
as.
is true, but I also think it's kind of like the Academy Awards. You know, if you don't get nominated, you don't get rated. It does not mean that it was not a great value wine. It just may not have been submitted to be rated.
It's also marketing, exactly, because
Yes.
you know there are certain people that care a lot about ratings, certain consumers that do, and so if you're going to get your wine rated, you're targeting that product to that consumer. But a lot of consumers really don't care, or they may care in certain circumstances, but not others. They're going to just go in and grab a basic wine. You're really not looking to see whether it's a 92 or a 93.
Absolutely. It is what it is. It's all a business, and they have to say where they're spending the marketing dollars, and this is about marketing. That's where it's going to. There was something interesting that I wanted to point out, though, too. So the 100-point rated scale, which is 50 to 100 what they're doing, there are other modes of thought in there. There's a lot of controversy. So there are what we go to when we go to Amazon. So if you're going to Amazon, and I just use that as a thing, but anybody that's asking you for ratings these days online, Google ratings, Amazon, I don't know what else I could think of.
TripAdvisor.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. They're all 5-point stars. So they'll ask you, how many stars would you give this? So there are also wine people out there wanting to have that. So Vivino is one that comes to mind. So Vivino is actually consumer-based wine critics. So all of theirs are coming from the consumer, but they're on that 5-star rating. What they did that I found fascinating, they actually compared that next to the critics that are on this 100-point scale and tried to see how they lined up. I thought that was just awesome.
Well, you know, and what we find is that, in fact, those wines that are very good, both the critics and the consumers said they're very good. And the wines that were really poor, the critics and the consumers compared.
This tells me, though, the consumers and the critics, let's say that again, the consumers and the critics are lining up.
Mostly, but here's the thing is, if I go to the wine shop and I've got a 92 and a 93,
right?
Okay, it's that nuance between the two. If I get a 92 rated and a 93 rated, can I be guaranteed that the 93 rated is going to be better?
I don't think there's a guarantee because it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a 1-point value. Also, when the professionals are comparing this, they're not comparing a Sauv Blanc to a Chardonnay. Those are different flavor profiles. They're comparing all the Chardonnays together.
So it's almost like watching the Westminster Dog Show, right? Just right. I mean, during the breed stage, they're comparing
all the time.
a Pekingese to a Pekingese, a Schnauzer to a Schnauzer, right? But in the final judging, right, you're going to get a Pekingese against an Alsatian.
Yes.
And how does the judge decide which of those two? Well, they're still comparing it against their own breed, right? They're still comparing that Alsatian to other Alsatians.
And for the dogs, there's a standard. Same thing with the wine. If you're a wine expert, there is a standard for what their expectation is of a Cabernet Sauvignon. There are standards that they're using.
And you may find, and as we find, that it's mostly the moderate to lower priced wines that have ratings, and the higher priced wines don't. And I think that's because if somebody's out there producing an $800 wine or a $1,000 wine,
right,
they really don't care what some rater says. They really don't. If
they're probably established enough as it is.
Sure, if you're Dom Perignon, you're producing champagne, you don't need James Suckling to tell people that Dom Perignon is good champagne.
That's true. He might volunteer because he wants to have your champagne,
but that crowded market in the like $18 to $30. That's a crowded market. There's a lot of wines in there.
They're really looking for your
the competition there is fierce, and so the ratings can really help. And I think that's where most consumers are too. Most consumers are not out there buying $800, $900 bottle wines. Not on a daily basis.
And you have to think too. The wine critics do have some flaws in there. I mean, it's a tough job. Right, if we had that job.
Yeah. Please, if you want us to rate your wine,
Send us all. We'll
send
just
us your
taste
wines.
lots and
We'll
lots.
give you our opinion.
If they line them up in such quantity that they're tasting at one time, and they'll put them in the paper bags and they'll do all these things. But the scientific statistics have shown everything weighs into their opinion. They can be in paper bags and they could taste the same wine 2 different days consecutive, but they change the order, they do something, and the ratings kind of change. That happens. There's also, if you happen to know, if you knew ahead of time that I would say, okay, this bottle was a $100 bottle and this was a $20 bottle.
That's absolutely going to psychologically affect. You can say it's not going to affect me. I'm going to taste them for what they are, but human beings are human beings. Now, but I do think that same expert might give that bottle of whatever California Cab a 92 one day and a 93 another day and a 91 another day, but he's not going to give it a 99 point rating one day and an 88 point rating the other day. It might vary a little bit, but I still think there is some element of objectivity in the rating if it's done right.
Exactly. So what I'm going for in the bottom line, in my opinion, is they can be a guideline to start out for you, but you shouldn't put your entire thing, you shouldn't force yourself to like something because somebody else did. It should not be the end all for you. It's all still subjective, and the consumers, they're still getting very close to what the critics do. Experiment.
I think there's an even better way.
Okay.
When you go to your wine shop, many wine shops do this. They'll have, Bob's favorite or Karen's favorite.
That's true.
Right? And so the different people who work there may have their favorite wines.
Mm-hmm.
Get to know Bob or Karen, right? And get to know what they like. And you can use those recommendations every bit as usefully or even more so than the number rating that's on the bottle.
And
because if you like the same thing that Bob does.
Talk directly to Bob. Talk directly. Why do you like it?
Absolutely. James Suckling isn't going to be there for you to say, why did you like this particular oakiness as opposed to, the French oak versus the American oak, right?
Exactly. What did you mean by lavender notes?
But Bob and Karen really want to talk to you. They really want to tell you their
They
opinion.
do.
Right? And so getting to know people who have similar flavor profiles that they like, it's like saying which is better, California wine or French wine. Well, that depends. Do you like French wine or do you like California wine?
I like all wine.
I know, exactly. But that's kind of the point, is get to know either the rater that you're going to use or go by, or your favorite staff person at the wine shop, or the person at your restaurant, the sommelier.
Right.
Get to know what it is they're recommending, and then you can rely on that a little bit more reasonably.
Right. And basically the whole point of the ratings is to give you a start. And of course it is a marketing, and you have to know that's what it is. But don't let that be the everything. Please try wine and be your own critic.
Okay, so what are we drinking tonight?
Yes. So I am dipping into, we had actually shown this one time before, but I finally opened it and then fantastically enjoyed. It's a Vina Ardonza. This is a 2012 Reserva Rioja. Delicious.
And I am drinking Old World, of course. I'm drinking a Gatavecce. It's a Tuscan Montepulciano, and it is a DOCG, and it is a 2019.
Sounds delicious.
Sounds delicious. All right.
All right, so just remember, no matter what your view,
just enjoy.
It's going to get a good rating from me.
Yes. It's going to be rated very highly.
Absolutely.